We are in the dog days of fantasy right now. We are 9 short weeks away from the NFL season starting. I can see it. It's right there on the horizon. But we're still in the midst of Dynasty season. Right now is a great time to make bets to set your team up for the point scoring season of fantasy football. And the great patron of Destination Debbie brought some trades this week. Let's see how they're setting their teams up for success, and let's break down some great Dynasty deals.
Okay, let's get it. Bitch, let's get it. Woo!
Welcome back in for another edition of the Destination Debbie Trade Show. My name is Ty DeClaire at Ty DeClaire 44. I'm so happy that you chose to tune in today. This week, we are going to break down some of these dead period deals. I'm going to be hopping into the Destination Debbie Discord. If you want into, by far, the best community in the Dynasty Fantasy Football space, get your trades on this show. DestinationDebbie.com is where you can find most of the articles and everything. And if you want in the Patreon, patreon.com/ALLGAS. Yes, let's go. Let's not belabor the point. Let's hop right in to some great old deals here. And we get started off by Dynasty Alex, the man who always brings the great settings. 12-team PPR Superflex lineup league, start 11, 1.0 tight end premium, and a 6-point passing touchdown league. There's 31 roster spots. So Plank Crew received Chris Olave and Jordan Addison, and they sent away Puka Nacua and a 2025 fourth. So this is definitely a bet on Puka Nacua being a hammer, being what he was in 2023. Like I said, Stafford's a year older, Kupp's a year older, but as long as nothing really changes from what we know, I bet on Puka still being a hammer. Not everyone's there yet. And Berserker doesn't agree with the Puka value at all, right? But again, you got Chris Olave and Jordan Addison. So I think it's fair to say that Jordan Addison, in opportunity, like when Justin Jefferson was out last year, Jordan Addison put up a wide receiver 1 overall week. Wide receiver 1. Now, when I look back at 2023 when I was in it, I didn't think that, Jordan Addison really took advantage of the opportunity that was in front of him when Justin Jefferson wasn't in the lineup. But maybe the statistics tell me different, right? Listening to Manic and Chill with Scott and Shane, and they really broke that down. It's like, hey, well, Addison did do something there. I think if I had to be a generalist, a 2025 first, a 2026 first, somewhere in there for Jordan Addison, someone's going to pay a first at somewhere in your league. Someone's going to pay a first for Jordan Addison. So I think it's fair to call him a first. Now, if we're talking Chris Olave and a first to go up to Puka Nacua, that's pretty interesting. Chris Olave, air yards king. Well, I think he's about his top 10 or top 15 air yard score in the Trinity tracker. He is tied to that Derek Carr, which is tough. And that Saints offense, tough. But, you have that round 4 Rashid Shaheed for the Scott Fish Bowl in that offense as well. So Chris Olave is an interesting offense. But when you look at the package together, yes, you would be sending away that Puka Nacua. You're sending away that hammer. But on certain teams in certain formats, I'm okay with moving out of the hammer range if I can stay near it. I know that the big talk in the space right now is liquidating out of the middle part of your roster, wanting the top of the top, and if not, finding ways to liquidate that middle part, go down to the replacement level, and then use that liquidity to go and get difference makers. The problem with this in that context is that Chris Olave of it all. Because I know that there's people in my leagues, so basically a Shane is going to be in my league where we're going to value Chris Olave at that near elite level, at that Devontae Smith, Michael Pittman Jr. plus kind of range. I don't know if Chris Olave ever truly becomes a wide receiver 1. If he does, it has to be in one of those formats, one where it is PPR, but probably one of those formats where it doesn't reward the receiving first downs and those big chunk plays, the big play scoring. I think those are leagues where Chris Olave could be very valuable and give you probably 70 to 80% of what Puka Nacua can do. If it's a league that rewards, scoring all over the place, maybe Chris Olave falls back into the pack some more. And again, I don't view Jordan Addison as a difference maker, but I do see him as a flexible asset. So I'm looking here. I mean, 12 team start 11 lineup. I get moving into Puka, but I'm probably going to be on the Olave and Addison side if I'm simply playing the Delta game. The difference between Puka Nacua and Chris Olave is a hell of a lot closer than the difference between Jordan Addison and a 25 fourth. Even if you want to say that Chris Olave is 60% of Puka Nacua, which I can tell you Berserker is not, I still think Addison closes up that gap. So, Alex, I like this deal for you. Like I said, if this is a hammer-centric league and Puka Nacua is Puka Nacua, maybe you might regret that, but I know that you make enough deals that you'll make enough of these two flexible assets versus just going with the one. So I get the talk, get up the wide receiver ladder, go get the actual difference makers and fade the guys in that 15 and less points per game. I get it, but I don't want to do it like this. So I like Plant Crew's side here. Like for Matt Gomez, again, you're getting the hammer, right? And hey, you got that fourth. So maybe you can get a running back spot start, in week 16. Maybe that's how you make that one work. But I like this one for Plank's Crew right here. Good work. All right. Bummy 15, Boomy 15. I'm truly not sure, but we got a 12-team start 11 super flex PPR 2-point tight end premium and a 5-point passing touchdown. I like that. So we have Mahomes and Kelsey stack. The trade partner now has a Lamar Andrews stack. Needed wide receiver depth, so what Ridley goes right in that wide receiver 3 to 5 mix. So we helped each other out. We got each other some stacks. Cool. So Boomy or Bummy. I'm going to call you Bummy. I feel like Bummy just rolls off the tongue a little bit better. Yeah, probably some phrasing in there. Bummy received Kelsey, Ridley, and that 25 fourth. They sent away Mark Andrews in 2/3. Okay. So it's not breaking news. Travis Kelce is old, right? He's on the latter half of his career. He's going off into the sunset at some point. The Chiefs are going for a three-peat. If they win, who knows, right? Maybe that's the time. He has as Ray likes to call it, the $1 billion booty at home, right? So maybe he has interest outside of football. But when you're talking Kelce, talking Andrews, both of those guys feel like, what can you do for me right now? Because remember, let's just think back to last year. Mark Andrews got hurt. He didn't have that sustaining value dynasty-wise. His value is tied up in what difference-making value he can bring to your lineups right now. So I think you can have a preference between Kelce and Andrews. And if you have a Lamar, that makes sense to want an Andrews. And if you have a Mahomes, it makes sense to value Kelce more. So these two sides just helped each other out, gave themselves the tight end stacks. Cool. Love that. But if we're talking Calvin Ridley and a fourth for 2/3, I get Ridley. It's not a hot ticket item by any means, but I'll take Ridley in a fourth over 2/3. I think this is pretty savvy to get a guy like Calvin Ridley. Just to go back to the conversation we were just having, right? Calvin Ridley feels like a great best bang for your buck, a great bottom line value guy that you can invest in if you can get more liquidity, if you can figure out ways to reinvest that if you're going down to Ridley. But this deal doesn't have us going down. This is just acquiring Ridley. So if this deal probably sets you up to feel better about moving those T. Higgins, those Jaden Reeves, those kind of options on your lineup, you feel better about moving those when you have the Calvin Ridleys, the DeAndre Hopkins, the Deontay Johnsons. When you have those guys already, it can make your lineup more flexible. So that's where there's some hidden value maybe in a deal like this, where not only are you getting just the good value Ridley in a fourth for 2/3, but maybe that makes you a little more flexible, especially more than what 2/3 would. And I'm assuming that both teams are just looking at the tight end swap as a win for each other. So, I like this one for Bummy. Like I said, it's not a bad deal at all for RTDB, but I'll take Ridley in a fourth over 2/3. And yeah, makes sense. So good work. All right, you failed me. It's got a 12-team start 10 super flex PPR and a 0.5 tight end premium. Freshly out of the startup, they're planning on punting year one, though they might be decent. Okay. Their other quarterbacks are Herbert and Bryce. They still have Olave, Godwin, Dio, John, Exeget. So figure taking another shot at quarterback is better than having two old wide receivers. That's a general statement. I agree with that. So you failed me, sent away Tyler Lockett and Stephon Diggs, and got back Deshaun Watson. Very interesting. So Tyler Lockett, again, back end of his career. I feel like people are waiting and begging and hoping and praying that JSN takes a step forward and puts Lockett into that kind of wide receivers 3 spot in that offense. But we haven't seen it just yet. Maybe this is the year. Tyler Lockett doesn't have a lot of trade value. I mean, a 3rd round pick is around what we're talking at this point, which is kind of crazy, especially if Tyler Lockett can enter your lineup 2-3 times. A 3rd round pick's an absolute easy buy. Stephon Diggs is now in a very busy offense in the Houston Texans organization. I feel like Diggs is getting a lot of slander online right now. He was frozen out of Buffalo. He was thrown out on the streets. He was a cancer. So there's a lot of negative bias, and there's a lot of mouths to feed in that Houston offense now. So I don't know if people know how to feel about Diggs. I feel like Diggs is going to eat in the slot in a highly efficient offense. Is he going to be Buffalo Diggs? No. Is he going to be Minnesota Diggs? Probably not. Like, he's at that point in his career where he'll put up threshold numbers, but that's about what I'm expecting. So again, Lockett, Diggs, neither of them are truly needle movers at this point. And honestly, good probably buys if you're on a contending roster, but I want to do it for the right price. Deshaun Watson, kind of the same range. I want to buy him for the right price because there's a lot of people where Watson is completely off their trade boards. I have no interest in getting a Deshaun Watson on my team. It's like, okay, fine. There's off the field behaviors. We all know what it is at this point. I don't got to go into it. Watson was a top 5, top 4, top 2 quarterback in Dynasty at one point. He's never shown that flash since he's come back. A lot of people have lost faith. He was like around 13, 14, even 15 underdog pick this year, where someone like a Stephon Diggs is still going in the 4th, 5th, 6th, possibly even 3rd. Like, if I'm looking purely points and winning now and just adding starters to my lineup, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Lockett, sure, that makes sense. I'll pay a little bit of the value and I'll just get the points. Let's move on. If I'm committed to punting, though, and I'm looking for the future, the floor can fall out on Lockett and Diggs at any point. Do I think they'll both fall out? That's a little less likely, I'd say. But Deshaun Watson, how many games would it take for Deshaun Watson to look good and put up good numbers for people to start to come around? Because it's not going to be 1. It's not going to be 2. But I think if he's strung together 3 to 4 300+ yard passing games, looking good, maybe rushing for 1 or 2, the offense is clicking, there's some dancing on the sidelines. David Njoku looks like a damn superhero. Like, I can see how the Deshaun Watson heat can start to rebuild. And from a pure team construction standpoint, if I can trade away 2 just threshold starting type options at wide receiver and move into a quarterback on a team that either needs quarterback or feel more flexible by adding a Watson when they have a Herbert and a Bryce, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. If you're trying to win, I want to be on the Diggs and Lockett side, I would say. But I see what you're doing here. And I think where your team is going, adding a Watson versus holding on to 2 wide receivers and trying to squeeze value, you're probably not getting much more on the market than a starting quarterback who used to have a lot of dynasty pull. So I see what you did there. It's a fine deal. Again, if I'm in my contender mode, I'm probably going to take the receivers and just say I can figure that out. But I like the idea of getting Watson there. So it's a good deal. It's a good deal. I'll take the wide receivers, but again, I get it. I agree with your take, right? Having another shot at quarterback is better than 2 old wide receivers. I can agree on that. Jenny Kirkle. No clue. Sorry. Curious to hear your thoughts. A 10-team start 11, 2-quarterback PPR. It's a home league, and you traded with your brother. Interesting. It's been a top team for the past 2 seasons, but has limited flexibility outside of his starting lineup. The team is also competing and won last year with a little bit of luck. JJ joins your team that has that Olave, Pittman, Ayuk, Diggs, Amari, Tank, and Jacoby. Wow. It's a lot of wide receivers. And despite all of those names, you still had Malik Neighbors and Romo Dunze in that room. And you sent away those two with a 2027 third-round pick. You got back a 2027 second-round pick, and that man, Justin Jefferson. So it's a home league, 10-team, start 11, 2-quarterback, PPR. Yeah. Romo Dunze and Malik Neighbors, both rookies this year, both highly sought-after rookies. Odunze was raised 1C, Malik Neighbors 1B coming into it. Romo Dunze's steam fell a little bit coming to the Chicago offense. You know, some people are very, I think end of season, you know, you could see that Odunze late surge for sure, especially if someone like a Keenan Allen gets hurt. But for what we see right now, it's going to be hard to see how Odunze can get enough targets and enough volume, at least year one, right, to truly be a difference-making option that's worth the investment you had to put into him. Malik Neighbors, on the other hand, has all the opportunity in the world with a Daniel Jones, right? So there's a bit of give and take there. I think Malik Neighbors is a damn baller. I think he's going to be great in the NFL. But we're talking about Justin Jefferson, the guy who's done it multiple years, the guy who tore his hamstring or whatever he did, and he didn't lose an ounce of value. So compared to that Mark Andrews who got hurt and that he was a dead asset on your roster for a hot minute, that Justin Jefferson sustained that value. And again, if I'm in a 10-team start 11, it's hammers, hammers, hammers. And if I have Pittman, Ayuk, Diggs, Amari, Tank, and Jacoby, I need to consolidate somewhere. So let me throw you these 2 rookie wide receivers. They have a lot of flexibility, a lot of pizzazz to their name. And let me give you that Justin Jefferson. I'll take the Justin Jefferson most times. In a 10 by 11, like it's not deep enough for me to really want 2 over 1. If this was a 14-team start 11, I might feel like a little different. If it's like a 12-team start 14, like with some other bonuses, I might feel a little bit different. But I think Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson, and that's just how I feel about it. And you're giving me the pickup grade in 2027. Yeah, I mean, 2027 so far out, but I like the Jefferson in the second side of this one. Again, I don't hate it for your brother. You didn't like rake your brother over the coals or anything, but I like moving into the proven asset versus taking the dice roll on the hopium bet. And I get a pickup grade. So I want Jefferson, especially given this context of your wide receiver room. Now, if your wide receiver room was Justin Jefferson, Jacoby Myers, Josh Palmer, and Amari Cooper, and the rest of your team was aging out, there's a conversation there for Neighbors and Odunze. But in a 10-team start 11, I just don't think it's deep enough to really warrant the tier down there. So I would have probably liked this more. Wipe out the second and the third. Maybe it's like Odunze, Neighbors, and something small coming back. I think the pick swap is what really just like cements it for me. I can see it from like a 2 for 1, but then the pick swap throws me off. So I mean, if this is like Neighbors, Odunze, and a second for Jefferson, like that's like a very, very good deal for both sides. I just think you probably took the 60-40 side of this deal. So I like what you did there. It's not a bad deal by any means. And let me know in the comments, am I off? Would you rather Neighbors, Odunze in the third, or do you want Jefferson in the second? Let me know. Let's see. This is a good deal, a lot of flash. But given your team, given the context, I'll take JJ. All right, Dragon Balls 5. Here we go. A 12-team start 10. 0.5 tight end premium, PPR Superflex. Felt your team is meh with Lamar, Hurts, Gus, Brian Robinson, London, Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers, Dallas Goedert. You needed some liquidity. The first could be top 3 in 2025. That's not a random first. That's not a late first. That's an early first. So you're getting an early first for Stephon Diggs and Josh Palmer. Gone Postal 12, patreon.com/allgas. I don't get this one. If that's truly could be a top 3 pick in 2025, I don't get that. I mean, for argument's sake, let's say it's a late 2025 first. I don't know about you. Like, I haven't seen Diggs move for a first in a hot minute. I don't think Palmer is the difference there. Like, if we're looking pure production, again, I've already gone into Diggs. I think he'll be fine. I just don't think he'll get the volume to really put him into that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 upside kind of range that he has been, right? Like, I think it'll bring him down to that, like down a level, down into more mediocrity, more replaceability. Josh Palmer could be the number 1 target earner on the LA Chargers. Could be. Absolutely. And that's my bet, is that he will be the leading target earner. It's not going to be McConkey. It's going to be Palmer. But, I mean, come on. Even if this is a late first, I can tell myself the story on the late first over those two. If you're a competing team and you're 2 wide receivers away and you feel like that's the move you have to make in July, okay. But I am in no way am I trading an early first-round pick for those two. First, like, there's only so many receivers that even trade for a standalone first as is. And that number is only going to dwindle. If you've kept your ear to the ground on Scott Connor and what a lot of the people in the streets are saying, the wide receiver market is becoming more and more saturated. And that middle flat tier is going to grow and grow and grow. I don't want to invest and pay like liquid capital just to get into the middle. I still want to hit my prerequisite numbers at wide receiver. I want to try and climb the ladder where I can, and I want to have my usual amount of threshold wide receiver. I still like to play that way. But I don't want to pay to hop into the replaceable range. And I feel like you've done that with these two. Now, the bet could absolutely pay off. Diggs could be a monster with CJ Stroud, and Josh Palmer could league in targets and have 10 plus touchdowns, and you're laughing because that's what won you the league. But it feels like a lot of things have to go right for me to want the Diggs and Palmer side of this. I'm going to take the early third or the early first here, especially if I have Lamar, Hurts, London. You have the Goddard stacked up. You have enough running back to get by. Give me the liquidity. I'll figure it out with that wide receiver room. I'll replace a Palmer. And I have an extra first in my pocket that I could either go with or I just have as insurance if this thing doesn't shake out. So I like it, Dragon Balls. I like it a lot. God Postal. Tough. That's tough. If that's truly a top 3 pick, that's tough. That's a tough one. Chair Force One. I'll be sitting in my chair for Swans. So I don't know which one you are here. I'm assuming you're getting the Jordan Love of this, sending away Drake May, Jalen Polk, and that 2025 second. Woo! Okay. Drake May, usually going 105, 106. We have no context here, do we? Had no context. So we'll call it a 12-team start 10 Superflex League, 0.5 PPR. No, full PPR. Full PPR. 1.5 tight end premium. Okay. Drake May, 1.5, 1.6 in rookie drafts this year. Could be the starter. More likely than not, it's going to be Brissett to start the year. Maybe Drake May comes on strong down the stretch. All right. Jalen Polk, earliest draft pick in the New England offense, could be the main target earner. More likely than not going to be some combination of like a Demario Douglas and honestly Ramondre Stevenson. 25 second, love to have that in my back pocket. Love to have something to work with. Then you're talking Jordan Love. So Jordan Love has absolutely ascended this offseason. There was times last year, midseason, where people were out on Jordan Love. He sucks. He's a bum. He can't hit the broadside of a barn. It'll never sustain. It's an offense. It's a system. But I mean, he did just lead like one of the youngest wide receiver and offensive cores, into a decent run in the NFL. And he's set up to do it again. There's a lot of continuity coming back in that offense. And again, I don't see the trajectory changing for Jordan Love right now. Do I think his value is inflated a bit? Yeah, a bit. But that's the game we're playing in right now. Is some people's values are inflated, and that's what we play with. So you're giving me Drake May, a mid to early round pick in Polk. Again, like probably a second round pick in rookie draft. So Drake May in 2 seconds for Jordan Love. I mean, if we were back in April and you offered me 106 in 2 seconds, that's probably that's probably something that opens the door for the conversation of Jordan Love. But I'll probably want to squeeze a little bit more. I'll probably want at least 2 first, like especially for a quarterback now that again they're going first round, second round, possibly third round startup value. Like you're talking 2+ first for those kind of assets, and I don't think this package gets there. Could Drake May and Jalen Polk ascend together? Yeah. And that second comes around. Yeah, you could be looking at this in a year and laughing that you got off of Jordan Love for this. I don't know. I'm going to take Jordan Love. I'm going to assume the format supports going up at quarterback and getting into that difference maker. And I'm going to assume that you can get Drake May, Jalen Polk, and a 25-second for Jordan Love at any point. And I bet that you could make another move here and go from Jordan Love to like, I don't know, can you get Brock Purdy in a first, Jared Goff in a first, Trevor Lawrence? Like, can you move around in that kind of a tier and extract a little bit of value that way? You don't have to go all the way to Jordan Love. Can we find somewhere in the middle, get a first out of it and really feel good about it? So I feel like you just have more flexibility with Love. I don't like easy. Sure. We'll call it easy, but it's not easy to send away a 3-for-1 with somewhat 2 people who you just invested significant capital in a rookie draft. Right. So I'll take Jordan Love, but I'm curious where the people come on this one. Cause I can see, especially those teams, if I just took over an orphan and I need to split some babies, I need to just get assets. This ain't a bad deal at all. Let me send off that Jordan Love. Give me that Drake May, the hopium shot there. Give me the Polk to go with it. I can now try and sell that May and Polk together as well if they do ascend. And I get a pick. Sure. That works for me. So good deal. I'll take Jordan Love though. Okay, Vaughn, here we go. 12 teams, start 10, no premium. Okay, no premium, just 12 by 10, straight up. Let's go. Traded a mid-first to go from rebuild to potential contender. If you can do that, that's great. You had already traded for Amon-Ra St. Brown out of the rebuild and wanted to put a team around him. Okay, so we went through 2023. We were rebuilding. Coming out of it, we bought Amon-Ra St. Brown, but we didn't want to stop there. We wanted to keep making deals. We wanted to cascade a couple deals and really set ourselves up for success. I like it. Not resting on your laurels. So after you went and got Amon-Ra, you also went to get Jared Goff, DJ Moore, Dalton Schultz, DeAndre Swift, and Devontae Smith. A lot of D names. You gave up Jackson Smith and Jigba, Michael Penix Jr., Ladd McConkey, a 25 first, 25 second, and 25 third. All of those picks belong to the same owner, and you're sending those picks back to the owner. So you're sending the first, second, and third back to the team that previously traded them to you. You're also giving up Jackson Smith and Jigba, Ladd McConkey, and Michael Penix. And you're getting Goff, Moore, Schultz, Swift, and Smitty. Whew. I'll tell you what. I'm glad that those firsts are his or theirs. I don't know who they are. Because without that piece, this is, in my opinion, this is a Ric Flair. Woo! Like this is a great deal for a team trying to make a push in while still sustaining that flexibility and some of that dynasty value. So let's break it down. So let's find some things we can cross off in these busy deals. So my mind first jumps to Jared Goff and Michael Penix. So Jared Goff is the win now quarterback. He's gone from reject out of LA to Detroit's guy. And I love that for Schultz. For Goff. I love stacking Amon-Ra with Goff in my lineup too in a 12 by 10 where maybe that correlation is what in those close games gives me the best chance to punch as hard as I can. And in lineup leagues, that's the only reason why I correlate is to try to punch as hard as I can. Bet on fewer outcomes to go right. Michael Penix, future play. If and when he starts, he should be worth a first. Jared Goff, I feel like he should be worth at least a first. in leagues I'm in, you'd be surprised. It's hard to get any first for Jared Goff in my experience. So I want Jared Goff over Michael Penix, but my experience in the trade streets has told me that Goff and Penix are probably around the same. But just to make me feel better, I'm going to say it's Jared Goff or Michael Penix in a third. Okay, so we'll cross those off. Now we got, let's go DJ Moore and Ladd McConkey. So I want DJ Moore over Ladd McConkey. There's going to be some people who look at those two offenses, look at the opportunity, and say, I want Ladd over DJ Moore. I am not there. Given that's no premium, the Dalton Schultz of it, I don't know how much that truly matters. I'm assuming you don't have much at tight end, and Dalton Schultz is going to find his way into your lineup every week. So if you told me you traded DJ Moore or you traded Ladd McConkey in a second, got DJ Moore and Dalton Schultz, I want the DJ Moore side. But if it's not a tight end premium, I get why someone would send away a Schultz for that. So we're looking what? So Goff, Moore, and Schultz for Penix, McConkey, the second and a third. Okay. And then you got JSN in a first for Devontae Smith and DeAndre Swift. Yeah, so, I mean, JSN in a first should net you Devontae Smith, the Slim Reaper. It should net you that. I know Shane says, if you haven't checked that out on YouTube, check it out. But Shane said, Devontae Smith, that's one of those guys on certain teams. If you can trade him for a first, it makes sense. Again, trying to move out of that range and go down. I'm not there on Smith personally. I do like Smith in that Eagles offense, and I know I'm talking to the Eagles fan who told you to trade him away, right? But I do feel like that offense is so consolidated that I still want that Smitty. And if anything did happen to A.J. Brown, Smith has shown that he can be a wide receiver one in those times, and he's going into his third year. He's only getting better. So I like Smitty. JSN in a first is a damn strong package for that. But if you're giving me Swift with that, that's what puts it over the edge. So again, it's not a bad deal. And if Stadium Ranch CEO is trying to tank, getting your first, second, and third back, that's something. The second and third, not so much. But getting your first back, I love doing that. So I can see how maybe this deal means more to them. And based on the assets they took back, that seems like exactly what's happening. Take on JSN, McConkey, and Penix, and all of your picks for 2025, and you send away all the points. Yeah, like I'm assuming, like I said, Stadium Rant, they tried to win, didn't go their way. Now they're pulling the ripcord, trying to go the other way. Get me off of that Goff, get me off of Schultz, get me off of Swift. Okay. DJ Moore and Devontae Smith can probably get me some value, but can I get back a McConkey and a JSN? If anything goes right for JSN and McConkey, I bet they can close the gap to Smitty and Moore. And if I do the right things with Penix and my picks, then that can really close that gap. So I see that mindset. I can see the team where that would make sense. But for me personally and how I like to Dynasty, feels like a lot has to go right for that to truly pay off. And that's a long-term bet. Your whole season has to be aligned to tank your team to make that work. So it could work. But the way I play, give me the Goff side, please. Stack up your Goff with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Vaughn, go win that thing, man. You got a lot of points there. Go win that thing now. Dynasty Alex is back, but this time with a best ball league. 12-team PPR Superflex best ball start 11. 175 tight end premium, 6-point passing touchdown, and a 29-man roster. So a little shallow. So the running backs they still have JT quads. So Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, Aaron Jones, Zamir White in the running back room. So still got a lot of bodies. Wide receivers, Ayuk, Higgins, Flowers, Cooper, D-Hop. So a good amount of wide receivers. A little too much hopium for how I like to play best ball, but hey, that's fine. Made it to the finals last year, and I'm already out of my 25, or my first 25. So you gotta go get it. So you're pushed in. You want to keep pushing. So you send away Joe Mixon and a second, and you get into that T. Higgins. Interesting. So looking here again, if you have Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, and Zamir White, how does Joe Mixon find his way into your lineup, and how do you Just take advantage of that value. So you pair Mixon with a second. Again, I'd say Mixon, production-wise, if he stays healthy, he's probably worth a first, honestly. But you're not going to get that right now for him. So a second plus, maybe 2 seconds for Mixon and a second. So 3 seconds, let's say, for T. Higgins. Some owners are going to love Higgins. They'd be willing to pay up to a mid-first for him. Again, some people. Some people don't want anything to do with Higgins, think it's all inflated value. Reality is probably somewhere in the middle. Higgins, again, has shown he can spike when he spikes. He can reach that wide receiver 1 ceiling when he does spike. Where does that happen? What team? When? That's the tough part with T. Higgins. And I feel like if I'm acquiring T. Higgins, I have a plan with T. Higgins. Either T. Higgins finds his way into my lineup most weeks, and in a 29-man best ball league, I don't mind trying to stay a little higher on the wide receiver range. Just thinking, economy of a roster spot, right? Trying to save some space, save some of that, park my money in some smarter spots. Again, I don't love getting into Higgins if my goal is to win. I feel like I can accomplish that cheaper. But Higgins could then open you up to be able to go and get a Deontay Johnson in a second, right? And then you're essentially, what would that be? So Higgins, Deontay in a second. So crossing off the seconds, just moving from Joe Mixon into a wide receiver, which would do pretty much the same thing as Higgins would in your lineup. So I think there's ways that you can either balance that out again, come out ahead if you move Higgins again. But even if you don't do anything, I get it, right? Ayuk, Higgins, Flowers, Cooper, D-Hop. I don't know who your quarterbacks are, what the rest of your team looks like after this. But again, you're trying to win, sure. I would say if you're trying to win, mix in a second, having that second to go and fill a gap in season could make sense as well. But that running back room, JT, Quads, Aaron Jones, Zamir White, I get it. In best ball, I'm okay having 5, 6 starters in that Joe Mixon range if I can roster it and make it work. But I don't need it, right? And if I can get into a Higgins, who I know I can probably move way easier in the season than I could a Joe Mixon, then maybe I can still solve that need when it comes up with that Higgins. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, Alex. I think it's probably a fair deal. If I'm moving my Higgins, I need at least something like this. So it's a fair deal. I don't mind that at all. But Higgins might not be the guy that I'm aiming for if I'm trying to win. And I feel like you might have been able to solve this. I'm not in your league, so I don't know. But I bet you probably could have solved this a little bit cheaper. Maybe you can keep that second and just straight go mixing into a Deontay Johnson type. Maybe you can get a Calvin Ridley in a pick. Something like that where you can still get what Higgins will do for your roster without having to pay up for the ADV of it all, right? So it's fine. And again, in a 29-man league, I get it. That's our 29 roster spot league. That's where I want to do that. So, yeah, good one. Speaking of Deontay, who we got here? We got Pistol Pete. Okay, Pete, we'll go with this one. We'll go with the next one. So we got 12-team start 10 Superflex lineup. Devi, oh boy, tiered PPR, and their quarterbacks are Kyler, J.J. McCarthy, and Baker Mayfield. They feel like they needed a wide receiver upgrade. They have DJ Moore, Waddle, and Downs was their wide receiver 3. So with Kyler, J.J. McCarthy, and Baker, they sent away C.J. Stroud and the aforementioned Josh Downs, and they got back Jamar Chase, Uno, and the aforementioned Deontay Johnson. So 12-team start 10 super flex lineup, PPR. You're constructed well at quarterback. You need wide receiver. Boy, oh boy, did you ever go get it. Yeah. I want Chase and Deontay here. Pure KTC value. I'm sure CJ Stroud comes out ahead. He is in that elite quarterback outcome range. People value him as such. Can you trade him as such? It's a little more difficult to find it done. But Jamar Chase, first round startup, first 1-2 turn at worst startup pick. right? Elite outcome wide receiver, top 3 minimum dynasty wide receiver. I feel like that gap's not that far. Like the delta between those two, you still have a difference-making player. Just CJ Stroud is at the more scarce position. So I'll give the hat tip to CJ Stroud, but I don't see much of a difference on a Stroud and a Chase when I have Kyler, JJ McCarthy, and Baker. And I'm assuming you have some backup quarterbacks on that team too, right? So in that construction, I'm fine moving into the Chase from the Stroud. Now you're talking Deontay Johnson and Josh Downs. Okay. If I'm in Scott Fishbowl, major points for return yards, Josh Downs value a little higher. If I have an Anthony Richardson, maybe I can tell me the story. That's why I like Josh Downs. I'm a big Deontay Johnson fan. I think he's undervalued for what he's going to bring to that Carolina offense from what we know today. And if he stays healthy, I think he's going to have a good season. He's going to put up much better numbers than Josh Downs. Josh Downs might be able to trade for more or not the same as Deontay Johnson, but for what your team needs, which is wide receiver production in a certain range, Deontay Johnson provides just that. You're never really going to know when to start Josh Downs, and that's going to be the frustrating part, whereas Deontay Johnson it feels like you're paying for more floor value, which, again, is what you need. You now have Chase, DJ Moore, Waddle, and then Deontay Johnson. I like a Deontay Johnson in that room more than I do a Josh Downs. Does adding Chase relieve a lot of your problems? Yes. And that's why I like the deal, right? Chase really makes that room work because you have that difference maker. Then you add it on with the nice bet that I like to make in like a DJ Moore, a Waddle. You make that wide receiver 4 less important, and then you address it with a production bet in a veteran who I think is in a great spot. So I like this deal. Deontay Johnson and Chase, send away Stroud and Downs. I think this is pretty savvy, especially when you put in the context of it all and what your team is doing. I like this a lot. So good work, Pistol Pete. Good work. And I don't think this is the same league, but it's also a 12-team Superflex lineup. Devi, PPR 125 tight end premium. So rounds 3 and 4 are separate drafts. The 6th round pick is a Devi 3rd round pick. They had a surplus of running backs, and they wanted to consolidate to only carry 2 or 3 tight ends. So Pistol Pete received Dallas Goedert and a 2025 3rd round Devi pick, or a 2025 6th round pick. And they sent away Gus Edwards. Yeah. Dallas Goedert, I have a pretty big bias against Dallas Goedert. I don't think that he's like that big of a difference maker. I don't think he's a target earner in that Eagles offense. I think the whole offense had a tough time navigating with the offensive coordinator last year. New in the building, Shane Steichen left. It was a tough. I am expecting a bounce back from the entire Eagles offense. And again, when I say that, people are gonna be like, "But Jalen Hurts was dope." Yeah, but and AJ Brown was dope. Yeah, but it never felt like it came smoothly last year, and that's where I feel like you might be able to see some of that smoothness come back to that offense. So I don't mind getting into a Goddard. If I have TJ Hawkinson and Conklin, I do feel motivated to try to get into that Goddard range, but I never want to pay for that Goddard, Freiermuth kind of range, somewhere in there. I don't want to try and like Cole Kmet. I don't want to actually pay to get into that range of tight end. I'd rather go higher or lower. I don't want to get in the middle. You got a Debbie 3rd round pick with it though. And all you send away is Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards absolutely could be the running back 1 in the Chargers week 1. Absolutely could. J.K. Dobbins, he's been the pinnacle of health, hasn't he? Kamani Vidal, people love some Kamani Vidal. Is he going to be the running back 1 out the gate? God, no, I severely doubt it. Gus Edwards is going to be entering an offense that loves to pound the rock with the Harbaugh. I bet he's going to be the goal line back. I bet he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. But how many running backs did I just describe with that exact same scenario? And how much are we really going to bet that Gus Edwards is going to be a health bet all season? Enough where I feel comfortable giving up my Debbie 3rd, which take it or leave it, Debbie 3rd, whatever. But a Dallas Goedert, who on this team makes a lot of sense. Hawkinson's probably not going to be there for the first half of the year. Conklin, I like Conklin for what he is, but I don't feel great about it week over week. I don't feel consistent with it. So give me a Goddard. I feel a bit better. Maybe I can trade Goddard in that third and do something else with it, but I don't mind it, Pistol Pete. I don't. I like it here. I like what you did. You didn't really trade away a lot. You got into something that's probably more flexible. So good stuff. Let's find one more. We already did a Vaughn. That's a nice trade though. Laporta for Smitty and Wicks in a 12x10 no premium. Vaughn, you pulled me in here. 10x12, 12x10 no premium. Hurts, Goff, Monty Swift, Puka, Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Kirk, and Pickens. Got an inbox offer, and the guy wants to upgrade his wide receiver room. Try to swap any running back to get away from Monty, and that way I don't have too many Lions players, but hard to turn down Sammy Ballgame. I agree. Okay, so Devontae Smith and that Wicks for Sam Laporta. I mean, Dontavian Wicks has been, I'll say, the biggest riser in the Green Bay offense, right? Like Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson. Yeah, see, it's Jaden Reed, and it's Wicks season. In a 12x10, no premium. Sure, he's a threshold option. I'll give him that at this point. I still like Wicks much more in best ball, and I bet I'm never going to know when to actually start him come season time. Will he have pop weeks? Yeah, I'm going to bet that he's going to have pop weeks in that offense. Absolutely. I just don't know when that's going to come. And in a 12x10, I like to know when that's going to come in my wide receiver room. Smitty, I've already gone to Smitty. I like the Smitty bet. I think it's a consolidated offense. I think he owns that wide receiver too, and there's not a lot of competition behind him. So I like Smitty. But again, I just feel like he falls in that replaceable range until we see something different. But I think he's on the higher end of that replaceable range. Then you have that Sammy Laporta. Difference-making option at tight end. On this particular team, you stack him with Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we got two options in the Lions offense. It's a non-tight end premium league. You had Puka, Amon-Ra, DJ Moore, Kirk, and Pickens. So in a vacuum, on this team that you've compiled with that wide receiver room, I don't see any tight ends listed. I'm giving you the green light to make that deal. Give me Sam Laporta on this team where you stack it up. But I'll give you the devil's advocate argument as well. One, I don't need to stack in lineup. I don't need to get, if I'm going to, I'd love to stack up the tight end and the quarterback. Yeah. But I don't need Goff and Amon-Ra and Laporta. It feels like at a certain point, it's diminishing returns, right? I'm betting too many outcomes on one game. The art of stacking comes where if I can get my tight end and my quarterback to carry each other or to only have to bet on that outcome making sense, cool. That's one less thing that has to happen. But if I now need my quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end to all hit in the same game, that feels more difficult. So I don't need to do that. But a certain range of player, it doesn't matter. And Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown are those players, right? So everything in moderation, including moderation. So I still like getting Laporta here because your wide receiver room has no room for Smith and Wicks. It doesn't. And you probably have one or two guys that aren't listed there as well, or enough assets to go and backfill if and when you do need a wide receiver there. Now, the other thing is the no tight end premium of it all. Tight ends, this is going to be a really hot take. Tight ends don't score as many points as wide receivers. They don't. In a non-tight end premium league, the flexible value of tight ends and like finding its way into your lineup becomes harder. But that doesn't mean I still don't want the elite difference-making options to, one, change the distribution of tight end for the rest of my league, and two, be more efficient and not have to devote more roster spots to tight end in a non-premium league. So I can kind of like argue both sides of the fence. If I didn't have this context and it's just Sam Laporta for Smith and Wicks, in this format, 12 by 10, no premium, I can tell me why I need those wide receivers because they're probably going to score more. And I bet Wicks could find his way into my flex. And I'm some basic bet I can find 2 starters for the price of 1. But on your team and the way that I like to dynasty, give me Laporta. Good work, Vaughn. We're going to end on that one, Vaughn. Good work. All right. We did it. Thank you so much for joining. I hope this was actionable, entertaining. Hit the like, hit subscribe. Let me know down below. Are you making that move for Laporta? What about that Puka? Are you paying up for Puka? Let me know. Let's talk about it. This is the time of year to talk about it, to really try to figure things out. I feel like this time of year it can be a lot of the regurgitated type conversations. So I might as well have a why behind what I'm doing. And I hope that you found the why in what I'm saying here. And like I said, the patrons did a great job of giving context, even the why behind. And there's a lot of 50-50 deals where the context made me want to go on their side. So there's always context to everything we do. And if you want more of this kind of discussion, patreon.com/ALLGAS. We talk about the why behind our deals. We make each other better. Iron sharpens iron. Get in there. DestinationDebbie.com. Keep up articles, podcasts, everything happening over there. New tools. Might be coming. And if you're on Underdog, well, if not on Underdog yet, head on over there. Use code ALLGAS. Get your special pick and first-time deposit bonus up to $250. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this somewhere on the range of entertaining. And let's just get to the NFL season, right? Let's just get there, please. I'll see you again next week. We out of this thing. Peace.